boomer. I think I'm a zoomer. I think I'm a doomer. Damn, I'm Montezuma. Okay. EWGWHITE coming with the heat.
I stay fooling with my bot, my tunes will make your speakers hot. Dance floor, hopscotch, baby, do the pop and
Welcome to the Grillcast, the only podcast in the world dedicated to radical centrism. I am your host, Orion, and joining me as always is Micah.
Yo, what's up? Live in the studio.
Live in the studio. He flew all the way out here just for this very special episode. We are joined today by moderators of the former NoNewNormal subreddit, Gun and Cool Chew. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Good.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
So there's been a lot of controversy surrounding your community. A lot of people have accused you of a lot of, horrible things, of being secret Nazis or Russian disinformation agents, or, trying to kill grandmas all across the globe. And I wanted to bring you on today because I think you've been mischaracterized. We here at the Grillcast are serious journalists, and it kind of sickens me to see how you've been what's the word for it? How you've been categorized. And so I'd like you, in your own words, to describe what NoNewNormal was.
Yeah, so I can give a short description of who we are as a community and then talk about some of the history of the subreddit. Some of the history will best be heard from Cool Chew, as he was there for the earlier parts of our group's existence. So our group has skeptical discussion of the new normal that has manifested as an outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are a diverse international coalition with the shared goal of restoring our old ways of life before the world fell into the grips of fear and hysteria. We want to improve the quality of discussion online by raising our own standards and encouraging the same of others as well. We give users the dignity to come to their own logical and autonomous conclusions on information. We aren't here to fact check people, and we aren't here to censor genuine conversation. Now, of course, we have standards and rules. Don't break the law, don't bully people. You can be offensive, of course, but just don't be excessive about it. No racism, any of that kind of crap. Or wishing harm on people, stuff like that. Pretty normal and reasonable things. Our subreddit was created by, I'll call him Spider for short, and some of these usernames can be a little long. And also, he had a lot of help from who I'll call Web, just another shortened version of the username on Reddit. The sub started off great, with it growing exponentially, but about 7 months ago, the second command in moderator at the time, Web, decided to announce to everyone that they got the COVID vaccine.
Dun, dun, dun!
Which is odd,
Pfizer
but, not harmful as of yet. But then when you read their post, which I'll send to you in case your users want to see the now deleted post, because we did make backups of all this, including the comment sections and stuff, because, we kind of knew a ban was coming. But Webb decided to tell everyone that they needed to get vaccinated, and he implored them to get it, and he was putting his foot down, he said. This was to an audience of thousands of people who disagreed with the COVID restrictions, and they were skeptical of the rushed COVID vaccine. What caused a big stir, though, with the other moderators on the team at the time was how Webb pinned their post to the top of the subreddit without asking anyone, and without mercy, they forced it to the top of everyone's feed. So you were forced to see that post all the time.
So basically, this Pfizer princess tried to impose their monarchical rule on what was once a safe space for nuance, facts, and logic.
Pretty much, yeah. It wasn't just like the moderator team who was shocked by this. It was the whole community, I would say.
Yeah. And I was about to get into that. And of course, you guys can barge in and ask any questions at any time. I'm more than happy to answer anything to the best of my knowledge. I know Cool Chew was around at this specific time. I was able to dig up this information with archived versions of the Reddit page and stuff like that. Before the ban.
Okay, so Cool Chew's a moderator, one of the older moderators. So
Yes.
You obviously are like able to, you're having internal dialogue with these people. What exactly were those dialogues at that time?
The context in which it happened. So yeah, there was no discussion when he did that. I was just finding along with the regular users. And at that point, I wasn't too involved. I've never moderated anything before. So I was kind of in the back and didn't really know what to do. There was no guidance from anyone. But there was a moderator chat where there was some discussion being made. And I don't remember exactly Schumann's involvement at that point. It was mostly like everyone but those two at the top from my recollection. And yeah, I'll just turn it back to you or Gun.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, what ended up happening was, just to answer any potential questions that might pop up, is the other moderators quickly tried to remove the pinned post, downgrading it to
No,
just
that
a
was me.
normal post.
Yeah, I was the one doing that.
Yeah, yep. And basically, where it would have a fair chance to be seen by anyone who would upload the post. So what happened was, is when anyone would try to unpin the post, Web would immediately pin it back up to the top again. Now, in the comment section, there was over 500 comments by our users at that time. We were a smaller community then too. And in the comment section, several people were upset, and for good reason, calling out the mod for putting their views on the situation above everyone else's, even above their fellow moderators. A fellow mod actually pinned a comment on Webb's post saying the other mods did not agree with the post, and that it's basically explaining that every time they took it down to be a normal post again, it would be pinned back up again to the very top. And we have copies of the comment sections too, and I have screen recordings and screenshots of it too if you or your users want to see that as well. Because it is good to see it with your own eyes instead of just hearing it from me and just trusting my word on it. But yeah, at this point, the creator of NoNewNormal stepped in, Spider, saying that Webb had done nothing wrong and there was no abuse of power on Webb's part or anything like that. Spider was saying that everyone can have an opinion on the vaccines, and I agree, everyone should have a reasonable say. But users were quick to point out that that's not the problem. It was that with semantics aside, is it really okay for Webb to be pinning his own opinion on the vaccine above everyone else's? People kept saying over and over again this was an abuse of power on Webb's part, and I'm just quoting what happened. And as Webb demanded for people to get the vaccine, it was a demand. It wasn't just an opinion. It wasn't like, hey, I think it's a pretty good vaccine. It was just, he said, I implore you to get it. I'm putting my foot down. And he basically put himself on a pedestal in that regard. Spider kept saying that he disagreed with users in the comments, saying that nothing was abused, even if a reasonable person may not agree with him on that stance. And that's a direct quote. And Webb commented on Spider's comments, saying that it was indeed his own opinion. And I quote here, Webb said, "It is my own decision to give myself the announcement spot for a little bit." So that's just a quote from what he said there. And people were saying that vanity was taking place here, and that Webb should not have their opinions elevated above everyone else's. Webb even removed the posts of people who complained about the abuse of power, causing even more strife inside the community. And this was about 7 months ago, for some context. Eventually, Webb willingly resigned, with Cool2 now being second in command of the sub for the rest of its existence, because Spider never resigned or apologized or anything like that. From my understanding, he never really spoke of it again that I was aware of.
Now, I do have a question about
Yeah.
this. So, just to let everyone know, because I believe in transparency.
Mhm.
I am vaccinated, extremely pro-vaccine. I actually got all 3 different vaccine types. I collect them like Pokemon. I'm gonna get every booster that comes out, and I will have as much magnets running through my blood as possible because I want to be a robot person. But I guess what I'm trying to ask you here is, what do you think that this Spider and this Web person,
Weeb character.
yeah, this weeb, the spider web that they set, this trap for your community. Why do you think they did it? What did they have to gain from pissing off everybody in their community and trying to flex their big mod muscles on everyone?
Yeah, so at the time, I really didn't have the same perspective that I do now. And I just kind of saw it as a failure to read the room, basically. At that point, and I saw how the community was on the same page as myself and everyone I was talking to, as well as all the other moderators. So it was more of a strategic kind of attempt to remove him, because it was such a discrepancy with what everyone else believed. And I created a back channel to communicate with the other moderators. And then in terms of that, the only resistance towards what I was proposing was from Spider himself. So the number 1 in command didn't want his number 2 removed. And he didn't really express explicit hesitation, but I could tell that was the only resistance that I got in trying to do that.
This is all just kind of shocking to me as someone who doesn't really frequent, I don't really frequent Reddit. I guess you wouldn't call me a part of the Reddit community, that there's, like vanity and favoritism between moderators of subreddits. Like that's honestly kind of shocking to me.
Yes, and one of the reasons why that would happen is because on Reddit, you can have one person that moderates dozens and dozens of really large communities, and it basically gives them not really a form of power, but they like to call it that. They call them power mods effectively. And now Spider, to my knowledge, wasn't one of those. I mean, he didn't really, especially as time went on, when I joined the team a few months ago, Spider became less and less involved with Cool Chew and his partners running the show, keeping the boat afloat as it was attacked by other communities on Reddit, which Reddit should have never let happen. So basically, when I joined and I could help out, I saw a community in need. Cool Chew was overworked. Some of the other mods helped, and some did not. I did some programming for the auto moderator to take some of the load off the team, using the bot to block some of the most nasty comments I've ever seen. People were coming here, excuse me, from other parts of Reddit, wishing death and harm on everyone in our group, wishing that we would get COVID and die, wishing that hospitals would deny us treatment, crazy stuff like that. And many Reddit accounts that were saying crap like that were only like a month old. They were all brand new accounts. They waited just long enough that they could get around the automated restrictions to try to keep spam out. Lots of different subreddits use it. It's the auto moderator system.
I see.
And yeah, basically using ban evasion to attack our
Do you think
sub.
it's possible that Weeb could have been paying thousands of Indians to make Reddit accounts to attack the community?
Possible, but I think there are also a lot of willing participants, like useful idiots, you could say. So it's hard to really say who these people were, and that's generally the case with a lot of the nefarious activity that I saw. There's no way of me knowing.
I just have a hard time believing that real human beings would do this.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that is the pattern that's repeating, not just on Reddit, but all over the social media. If you look around, it takes only a small amount of really fake profiles that might start instigating such stuff, post a couple of memes, and then when the ball starts rolling, it's the audience that keeps it going, and that's where the problem becomes, because as soon as a few people make it look like a justified behavior, the mob mentality is immediately there.
Yeah, should we introduce Tsuyoshi, who just stepped in? He joined recently, kind of in the last week or so. We started communicating, but he was involved very directly in the night before we got banned, and we were calling out the double false flag attack that was kind of the linchpin and
all right, yeah. Let's go ahead and get into this and give a little context. So recently, the NoNewNormal community, before it being banned, was attacked by a cabal, a shadowy organization of power moderators. People such as Bardfin, notorious pedophile. They all band together and did whatever they could to take you down for so-called misinformation, disinformation, whatever it is. Really just having a problem and wanting to flex their big Janny muscles. So would you go ahead and just go ahead and talk about that?
Well, for the most part, if you look at, let's say, the justification of Reddit, what they used to ban the whole NoNewNormal subreddit, when they said it was because of brigading the other subreddits, that's also...
Yeah, just to clarify, the only thing they have gotten us on in terms of admin communication has been, the first thing was the fake vaccine cards was something people were pushing, I guess, and we created some auto mod rules and automation to prevent that. And the first guy we talked to, who's different than the second contact, he was fine with that. We resolved the issue very quickly. And then the second infraction was for brigading, and that happened, I think, around a little over 3 months ago. And then the third infraction was just another instance of the supposed brigading, or in their words, interference in other subreddits.
Yeah, and I wanted to give a little bit of context to some of the brigading stuff, and of course I'll let you guys get back to what you were saying, but just so the audience is aware, and some of them might already know this as well, but Reddit allows anyone to create a bot account, and a real user can control a bot account and then let the bot control itself and program it to make comments on posts, or post things on different subreddits. They can have it basically do anything a normal person could do on Reddit. So that was one of the things that was hard to combat, because people would, they would a real person would use the account for a month or two or however long they needed to wait before they were able to join after creating a brand new Reddit account. And then someone could easily have a bot go in there and spam a bunch of random junk or terrible comments or something to try and get us in trouble too. We had those type of things happen as well.
So I've got to ask, in the interest of, presenting a devil's advocacy, do you think that it's possible that any of your users did brigade other subreddits? I mean, it's a
Yeah,
community of
Yeah.
over a
Well,
100,000 people.
definitely,
yeah.
definitely happens. But the
Yeah.
point is, there's a few others that, let's say, reacted to trolls attacking the sub itself. So they kind of reacted back, went onto the other subs, basically snooping on these people's profiles, see what they're active, what they're talking about, and kind of went on more or less defending our sub and maybe defending other subs like ivermectin. But predominantly the those that were brigadiering as such, like Gunn already mentioned, these were new profiles, really fresh profiles, and most of them, if you look back, most of them pretty much started disappearing as the No New Normal went into quarantine, but predominantly most of them disappeared just days before the ban.
Yeah. To answer that more directly, I would say that I never got an impression. I had a pretty high level view of everything that was going on, and I never saw any indication of organization. Like, so what they called brigading was just participation in any other sub. And that was what they wanted us to do. They created this little box for us, and we have to stay inside of it. So even like the first brigading accusation was on our coronavirus, which is insane to think that we're not allowed to participate in a coronavirus discussion generally just because of our perspective.
So they're
And
they're
that,
basically against your users, broadening their horizons, getting other perspectives and points of view, which is something that we here would definitely advocate. So are you saying Reddit admins are generally against that? They want to keep
yeah, they want to control the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, they
Effectively,
first
control
yeah.
the narrative exactly
the
by keeping us in our little box, and anytime we leave it and spread what I would consider the truth, they try to shut us down, and that's what they call brigading, which is
Basically
very unfair.
the way I saw it was even worse, because a lot of people came to the No New Normal and other similar subreddits like ivermectin just basically to see what's going on, to check whether there's really some misinformation, because there was noise already coming around, and a lot of people were just looking for more information anyway because they didn't get enough, so they were getting information from these kind of little pieces as well. But what happened, I can confirm in my own case, I've been automatically banned from over 100 subreddits I never even joined,
based.
never commented, never done anything. So basically, I just upvoted some stupid GIF or image or whatever, or a joke, didn't make any comments with regards to the COVID, with regards to the pandemic or whatsoever, and I just got
Yep.
automatically banned. And that was actually admitted to be done by a single user or a power moderator called Nate the Great, and he was boasting about it all over the Reddit as well
Yeah,
until he basically.
we have a lot of visual evidence of what he's talking about too,
Yeah,
to
people
confirm
have
that
leaked conversations and
conspiracy.
stuff.
Actually,
So to play devil's advocate again, have you ever considered building your own Reddit? Because in the free marketplace of ideas, they can ban whoever they want because they're a
yeah.
private company.
Well, that's kind
You're
of what
right.
we're forced to do at this point, and that's what we're doing with NoNewNormal.com.
Yep.
New,
And
NoNewNormal.com.
Gotta
yep,
plug it. Yeah, thank you.
app.nonewnormal.com. Yep. The app part's a little bit important because Google's already blocked our webpage from showing up in Google search. So we do pop up in DuckDuckGo if you type in No New Normal. We will pop up as the first or second result on there. But yeah, we basically have been making our own social media platform, if you will, with hundreds of people signing up every single day.
Yeah, and so from my perspective, I was happy just being like in charge of the No New Normal subreddit, and was just chugging along, and then realized that somebody else was going to be creating this if I wasn't, and I decided that if somebody's going to be doing it, it might as well be me, because I had like the kind of vision and strategy of what I wanted the subreddit to be about, and that's how it started. And it was kind of in the background. I bought the domain, I don't know how many months ago, but I started talking with Gunn just because I added him as moderator, and then we got to talking on a private basis, and that's what led to the website. And he did all the work, the hard stuff to get that going.
I do want to circle back a little bit to the moderator on moderator violence that took place, the power jannies all colluding to strike you, because despite making just 13% of moderators online, power jannies are responsible for over 52% of bans. And so could you give me your guys' perspective on, because there's a Discord made by these power mods who
Yeah.
Yeah.
colluded together to get your subreddit kicked off, and I guess I want to know a little bit of the history behind that
So I'll take
and
that one.
what you think that their motivation was to do so.
So from my perspective, so I've never moderated any Reddits or anything like that before. I was just kind of randomly selected. Like the spider who did the invitation didn't remember. He said he didn't remember doing it, and I guess I was just an active user. This is all new to me as well. But my first experience with it was just from users kind of giving me information as I was going along, and I learned about against hate subreddits. And I think it was around February where I saw a post that basically was like a shot across the bow and calling us out as like an enemy, like a bad place, and they tried to make it about all different things that it was really flimsy on the grounds that they were
Yeah,
claiming.
we've heard about their nonsense.
We try not to speculate too much on why they do what they do, because if we don't know something, we don't want to just make up a reason for it.
Yeah,
But we do think and kind of wonder as to why they might be so against us and
Well,
stuff
because
like that.
their whole thing is they're like a post, they're like an ironic kind of page where like they say they're against hate, but actually they're like a huge hate community.
They're for
Yeah.
hate. Yeah, they're trolls.
This,
Well,
a lot
yeah,
of their
it's a troll
community
army.
comes from 4chan, actually. That you have to understand that this is basically complete cynical community, not sarcastic.
Yeah. So my perspective was, I think it was around February where they made the post calling us out, and yeah, some of the most ridiculous evidence of trolling I have is right after that, because they're trying to go after us for like an anti-Semitic kind of angle,
Right.
and then like the only evidence they had was something like a month in the past, and it was just somebody's like saying the word Jews, and like it was like that was it. That's all you guys
Right.
have to like make this
Right.
kind of like hate speech
Yeah.
accusation.
They're
And pretty much
they're-
after that is when all these ridiculous false flag troll attacks happen.
yeah,
started happening.
they're not a serious group of people. If you're actually against hate, you join anti-hate communities.
Yeah, and we got plugged in with those guys down the road actually.
They do a lot of valuable
do.
work fighting hate on the internet.
Yeah, that's how we
Yep, by
started talking.
getting people
basically.
banned.
And so I know you said that you don't want to speculate too much on their reasons why, but I appreciate, first of all, as a radical centrist, I appreciate that your community is dedicated to facts and logic. You want everything you say to be backed up by facts and logic. That's very
So true.
important. But
Very true.
at a certain point, you have to. Part of facts and logic is connecting some dots.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering, is there like any sense or anything that maybe these people are power moderators in general, might be paid by some organizations, might be employed by Reddit, or might even be government agents? Is there any sort of proof, even circumstantial, that might link them to such activities?
I would have high confidence that they're not just, at least the people I've been in close contact with, like in terms of NoNewNormal, I would have high confidence they're not just regular people. And what that means beyond that is a matter of speculation.
Yeah.
And we have some evidence to indicate that. That's pretty convincing, but very high confidence that they're not just regular people.
So the original controversial post that was made by Weeb, are you basically saying that it is to be assumed that was a Fed post?
I don't know about that. I'm just saying the important thing is that's when I saw the real troll kind of orchestrated campaign begin.
Yeah,
And
I
ever since
think-
then, it's escalated.
Absolutely. I think some of it might have Reddit's involvement directly, because it would be in their interest as a company, especially if the leaders there have a certain view on something, to kind of shift the wording on certain things and get people to talk about something a certain way. And speaking of brigading as well, earlier, the day we got quarantined on Reddit, they were actually warning users to go to the CDC website before entering our community. And some communities went private, supposedly in a protest, and this actually made news, telling all their users to blame NoNewNormal and saying that they wouldn't open up their community until Reddit banned us or for a few days or something like that. And if you want to talk about brigading, I mean, that's like a perfect example of it. They were having people flood our community and in anger, really, because other places on Reddit were essentially closed. And and there were dozens of communities that did that, I believe. So that was very interesting as well.
It was a total of 64 communities that did that were counted firsthand.
I want to talk a little more about some of these communities that shut down, specifically non-offending MAPs. So for our listeners who might not be terminally online, an MAP is
Pedophile.
a minor attracted person, right?
Ah.
Minor attracted person. So this is somebody who, yeah, as you might guess, is attracted to minors, and they claim to be non-offending, but can you really be? And so this is one of the communities that shut down in protest of your sub being open, because you were probably saying like 12 to 17-year-olds shouldn't be vaccinated, and they thought like, no, we need them.
We need to protect.
We need to protect them at all costs.
My understanding is that there's a fake community.
This community was back opened as soon as NoNewNormal was banned, and it turns out it's kind of like something like a map lovers community or something like that. So community of lovers of maps, as in Google Map or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was an elaborate, let's say, call it a prank, pulled by a couple of guys. I do remember one of the usernames out of my head, but I've got screenshots of this whole thing.
Ava and Sneed666 were the two operators.
That's also one of the operators, but there's a few more connected to it that later on bragged about it on the subreddit drama. And then they explained what they did. They created a couple of fake profiles. They created this fake subreddit, and then with these fake profiles, they joined the NoNewNormal subreddit, pretended to be just same users as all the rest of us for quite a while. That was lasting for about 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, it was about a month.
All of a sudden, this weird MAP subreddit appears, goes to private, and then this SNED666 posts a post onto the NoNewNormal, basically saying, you're doing something right if the pedos make their sub private. And that thing was so heavily upvoted within like an hour. It was 2,000 upvotes on this
Subreddit drama,
which was it usually doesn't happen really. Average upvote count was, let's say, about 1,500 was really big. This one was about 2,000 within like an hour, so it was pretty intentionally spammed by a lot of users. So it was appearing on the top post for a week, and that was then spread out in the subreddit drama and all the rest of the subreddits, which were heavily influenced by Nate the Great and a lot of his buddies. It was spread out to say, look what they're doing. They're basically they're creating fake subreddits. They are creating this mess themselves, and essentially they triggered another wave of brigading on our subreddit, and then responses from other users. Even I got a little bit involved in a debate elsewhere, and basically we saw a ban coming within hours later, and that was
so you think that this was the impetus or the excuse that Reddit HQ used to remove your platform? Is that what I understand?
I think they plan to do that.
Reddit HQ, basically what they had to do is just simply they realized that this is gonna really blow in their faces, not because of our subreddit, but because of what's really going on. And it was easier to get rid of our community with 100,000 something users than getting a whole shit from all of these trolls, because we're talking here millions of users being pulled by a group of people. And that's pretty much what happened.
And to go back to the speculation point a little bit, just my personal opinion, what I think is kind of at play here a little bit is how they get such a massive group of people to do this. And some of it's probably bots. Some of it's, of course, real people involved. But, I think there is money involved, whether it's from Reddit or, who knows elsewhere, to be honest.
Possibly George Soros.
I have no idea, but
I would say if there's any money involved here, it must be also coming quite proportionately from the pharmaceutical industry itself, because at the end of the day, looking at it very conservatively, we're talking about billions of dollars being invested in this bloody whole scenario. Never mind what I want to do with it, but it's just a lot of money invested, and if anybody is putting this to risk, it's worth to throw a couple of million just to shut us up. And that's not even a conspiracy, that's just a little bit of a logic. It's happening. happened before.
Yeah, I saw from the New York Times on their podcast that it, with the booster shot, it was going to be the most profitable pharma product ever.
Yeah, well, Bill Gates himself says that investing in pharmacy turned out to be his best investment ever.
It is a
So
good investment. I do advise all my listeners to invest heavily in the pharmaceutical industry because, it's not moral, but what investment really is moral?
Better than
These
prisons.
exactly.
And I would also advise our users to at least take half of a vaccine because we don't want to fully support the pharmaceutical industry. But, at the same time, I feel like you should protect yourself, but not to the I mean, if you take both, it's probably if there is any danger associated with it, there's probably a greater danger if you take both. So just take one.
And I would recommend to take them all like I did, as if, collecting Pokemon. It's kind of got to catch them all, right?
yep.
Vaccines, STDs, pretty much catch them all.
And don't forget
Anyways,
to post about it.
If you look at this from another joke, how easy it was to convince people that the toilet paper is running out. So I think it was pretty easy to convince quite a lot of normal Reddit users that we're really bad guys.
yeah, and I think from talking to you all today, it really goes to show that the way that you all have been labeled is inaccurate. You aren't people discussing things in bad faith. You're not trying to hurt people. You're people that are, you're trying to use facts and logic. You're trying to have an open and honest discussion about, where we're headed as a society. So yeah, I guess I would say, do you all have any hope? Do you all have any
Well, yeah,
hope?
you got they
Yeah,
they
going
have
forward?
they mentioned that they started their own site, and I was kind of wondering about that because
Yeah.
what would the long term? Well, first of all, like what are the long term goals going forward with that? If like the point of part of the point of your community was an advocacy for being against this new normal that you talk about a lot, but I'm not entirely sure what the extent of the new normal is, and I'm also not
Yeah.
entirely sure what the use of the community would be if we were to return to the old normal instead of upgrading to the new normal.
Well, that speaks to what Orion was just mentioning, and so after the quarantine, I was kind of down and sad about it for about a week and kind of logged out to a certain extent. But I found the strength to rally myself and kind of just make the most. At that point, I realized that the ban was probably inevitable. So that was kind of the perspective I had. But then I decided to make the most out of the platform. And everyone really rallied. There was a lot of users that went to other places, and we didn't have the same users online that we had in the past. So it was like around 7,000 users online at its peak, and we were down to about 3. But we really kind of were in like top form that last week, and the quality was better than I've ever seen. And there were so many people who were coming in just saying, I heard like you guys were terrible, and then I look for myself and I see the truth, and it was really eye-opening for a lot of people. And I would say that's the basis of what we're all about, and it's in line with what you guys are about with the radical centrism. It's not about a specific ideology. It's about bringing voice to people, the normal people that you see in real life, as opposed to the kind of extremes that you see in the media.
I'm curious because just like it's good for the Grillcast to constantly kind of leech off of the drama going on in the universe and all the crazy stuff that happens in the news. It's good for your community that there is this kind of new normal narrative because it's what unites you. So what's if things were to go back to the old normal, what do you think your community would be centered around?
It's something that kind of coalesced naturally, I would say. Like a lot of it was intentional based on my personal beliefs, which I think would be consistent with radical centrism.
Based.
But I've always just
Based.
I've always tried to just play each issue as it was, and not really subscribe my beliefs based on any kind of political party. So it's a complicated answer to a simple question that could go in depth and at a different time, I guess.
And in terms of, if things did go back to the old normal and stuff like that, of course, we want to keep at least our community. We still want to always be open in case, because there's always going to be the same people trying to get rid of the old normal now with the new normal. They're not just going to go away even if we get a bunch of people on our website and things start to go back to the old normal. I'm pretty sure they would try to do this or something like this again. And, that's kind of what we're here for, is whether things are good or things are bad, we want to give people a place where they can have genuine discussion, where anyone can go on the website even without an account, see the posts there, the links, the information, and anonymously browse and have access to that, whether things are good or bad in the world.
So, I kind of want to ask regarding what the old normal is. What do you see the old normal as? Some people, some detractors of your community would say, "Oh, the old normal, so they want to bring back slavery and the Holocaust." And I want to hear straight from the horse's mouth. What is the old normal that you
Uh,
all are shooting for?
From my
The
perspective,
old,
I
yeah.
just envisioned it as pretty much February 2020. Like anything before that is like that's like the base level, and I can get more idealistic in terms of what I want it to be and the improvements that I think we have an opportunity to make. But that's the minimum criteria of just going back to when all the madness started.
Yeah, before the world fell into the grips of the fear and hysteria over, things like the virus, I see people wearing masks when they're the only one in their car. Stuff like that. There's a lot of fear and
And how
stuff
does that
around
make you
this.
feel?
Seeing other people do that, or just the whole
Yeah.
situation as a whole.
I was just in Safeway, grocery store yesterday, and it felt like being around a bunch of zombies. I live in Silicon Valley, so I'm kind of in what I consider the belly of the beast, and it's just gotten more dramatic where people go around and they feel lost to me. But it's sad, and I feel like my heart is broken, like seeing my nephews, like little kids, having to wear the masks and seeing that as normal.
Yeah.
I will say in regards to wearing masks that it is a little xenophobic against Japan to say that people shouldn't wear masks. To another, effect, we are culturally appropriating them to an extent when we adopt those same policies in America.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, if you want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask, fine. Just keep it in the bedroom.
Your
Yeah,
body, your
it's
choice
about
kind of
freedom.
thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, like basic communication involves like nonverbal cues and smiles and subtle expressions, and you're losing all of that with the mask on.
I never
And yeah,
smile at anyone.
It's true. It's true. I just met this guy in real life for the first time, and I'm like, God, man, you're making me sad just looking at you. Holy fuck.
Yeah, our main thing is just about freedom. We want people to have that choice and not have to be stuck in that constant fear state over the virus when they're
What
like,
about what
for
about
example,
have you
alone in their
considered
car.
having the freedom to feel safe? What about
Well,
that
of
freedom?
course, that's why they can, have the freedom to put the mask on and get vaccinated if they really want to, because the whole point of the vaccine is to stay safe, right? So if they have the vaccine and are wearing a mask and that's what they want to do, then they shouldn't have any problem.
Evidently, the way these vaccines are functioning, or at least their efficiency proves to be, you're really doing it only to protect yourself.
So just to clear things up, on our end for people listening, your
Yeah.
community, was it anti-vax, or particularly regarding the COVID vaccine? Was it
Yeah,
Just
anti-COVID
COVID.
vaccine, or was it
so
COVID vaccine skeptical? Was it COVID vaccine
no,
curious?
from my perspective, I would say I never was really thinking about vaccines in general too much until I saw the way it was going in terms of the COVID vaccine. Like I remember my dad bringing it up, and I just didn't even think about it at that point, and that was probably summer 2020. So yeah, definitely not anti-vax in general, but there is a contingent. But it was more just like the rushed vaccine, like kind of untested, and that's my background in testing. It not seeming kind of safe and going through the normal FDA approval that you normally have. But also, it's kind of a delicate situation because I knew that suggesting medical advice, on a website of any kind where I'm not a doctor, can put us in a bad
So
spot.
would you say that you were would you say that you were skeptical of this vaccine before it was a Republican thing?
Yeah, for sure. The
Yeah.
party politics don't factor in at all to me. But in terms
Same.
of my position on the vaccine, it would be more positioned around the vaccine mandates,
All right.
because people can do whatever they want. But when they're going to use that as a tool to control society in terms of physical access, that is where I take a pretty hard stand.
For anyone who was really observing this kind of communities well, will notice that there's actually quite a significant number of people who even come and say that they were vaccinated or they are pro-vax, so they were vaccinated against COVID and they are pro-vaxxers. However, they definitely disagree with the vaccination mandates and the vaccination passports and all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
So this was really the main kind of the main sort of the parts of the groups I've seen, even in ivermectin and other groups like that. There's in groups where you could see in subreddits, some other subreddits where you could see basically more or less just jokes and memes going around about we call them covidiots, they call us covidiots, so that kind of goes in hand in hand.
Is it possible that you're both COVIDiots?
Yeah, definitely. Look, because
Yeah.
there's definitely foolish people on all sides. Yeah, you can see people wearing double masks and a face shield driving alone in a fucking car. So that's fucking stupid, man. And then you have people coming up with crazy ideas and crazy stuff. I mean, literally cooking up some home recipes and thinking that's going to protect them from disease and stuff like that. It's also fucked up. But the majority of these groups were right in the middle, were people who were either hesitant for reasons they didn't understand, that they just wanted to understand more, and they were afraid that the information they're getting either from the mainstream or the doctors is not really fair enough. And then you look at other people, a lot of them were highly educated, for example, including myself. I'm very technical. I love science. I like to read peer-reviewed research and stuff, and I've actually followed quite a lot of experts on the subject. And I just simply said, if you're at risk, if you really think you need it, go and take it. But do not push this shit onto others, because it has been proven before in the past, mRNA vaccines for specifically coronaviruses are not exactly a good idea.
I fucking love science too, so I'm glad that you're not coming from a perspective of trying to denigrate the validity of science, and you're coming from a perspective of saying that science isn't set in stone.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's one thing. The one thing that pisses me off right now, that people are saying, forming this as a new kind of religion. They're saying trust the science. I do, but science is all about questioning everything and testing it 1,000 times until it's a fact.
So I think that kind of touches on what's relevant to this show, in that there's a perception of the community, and I would call it movement at this point, that is totally out of line with the reality that my colleague is expressing, where that is the average view of users, but there are these often false flag and shill operators that create the perception that we're something that we're not, and I'm kind of shocked at how successful they were in creating that false narrative.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say on behalf of the no new normal and the old normal, if I look at it from my perspective, I've been around quite a while, so I can say that I don't think there was much of the normal before as well. But what we can see now through what happened in 2020 and what continues to happen is all that wasn't really normal and wasn't acceptable in the society before has now even surfaced even more. And now we see the need to actually open up this communication, talk to each other more, learn to disagree with each other more, and just bloody heal the society, because otherwise this is not going forward. We goddamn well know where this ended once before, and there is no other ending for this if we're going to continue to hate each other on the basis of, I don't know, beliefs
or misrepresentation, like Cool Chew said. And we definitely know what it feels like to be misrepresented as centrists, often being called Nazis, right wingers, bigots, unfunny, and not handsome. So we totally understand how damaging that can be.
This even becomes offensive for someone like me. I come from a culture where we actually grew up as anti-fascists or fighting the Nazis and stuff like that, and then somebody accuses you of being a bigot or a racist and things shit like that. I mean, it's just we live in an upside down society. That's what I see.
A society?
Yeah, upside down society. What I mean is like you're being accused of things that others are doing to you.
So I guess I want to circle back a little bit to the false flagging. So you're saying that members of your community are accused of being belligerent, and that those are not actually members of your community but bad faith actors. Do you have any proof that verifies such a bold claim?
Well,
yeah, I do have a couple of screenshots that exactly expose these specific claims.
If you look at the specific case with the hours that led up to the ban, that's one example. But I have I have documented a lot of stuff, and I don't see who's on the other side of the keyboard, so there's not 100% proof. But from what I've seen over time, I would have more of a kind of skeptical view where you're coming from. But seeing it as a whole, it became pretty clear that a lot of these were false flag operations where there are certain patterns that you can see developed, and they
Yeah.
would have long periods of dormancy. Like you'd have a year old account, and then they would have a couple comments at the beginning and then a long period. So they're basically farming these accounts to use as weapons. And
A lot of them were
it's hard
brand
for me
new
to explain
accounts
that
too.
verbally.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Gun.
Yeah, so basically, a lot of them were also brand new accounts as well, which was very interesting and kind of showed you that they were just waiting until that, because there's like a 30-day delay basically before when you sign up for a brand new Reddit account before they allow you to post to kind of prevent spam. But people were waiting right up until that window, and then they would start posting stupid stuff like that, trying to make our community look really bad. And none of those people are actually really on our website. And anyone that does or that has gone to our website to post something stupid, it's something really bad and something that we take care of very quickly. Something that breaks our rules, like illegal content or, bullying people, being racist, that kind of stuff. We get rid of that for obvious reasons.
Now, do you allow like a little bullying? Because here on the Grillcast, we find bullying to be sometimes useful in correcting negative behaviors. Like, is there any sort of acceptable? Is there any sort of
Uh,
acceptable bullying in your
uh,
community?
yeah, I'll take that. Like I call out like germ theory denialists, and like people who are like pushing the vaccine magnetism. Like you get the vaccine, like something sticks to you. Like so, at first I was more naive in terms of that stuff, but over time I realized that these are most likely. I mean, some of them could just be not smart people, but I think it's part of a concerted effort to create that false narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So calling
I
that
can
out.
agree with you because I think it's the notion of there being redditors who are stupid. I don't buy that.
Personally, when I saw, apart from Reddit, when I saw some genuine and at least what they seem to be very smart people, and they tweet stuff like unvaccinated people should be placed in front of the ditches and given another chance or one last chance or something like that. When you see tweets like that, I honestly wish to meet a person like that in
That's
real life
well,
and see what
no.
they've got to say.
That
Yeah,
person
because I
is
mean, come on, man.
that person is suffering. That is a terminally online comment.
True indeed. True indeed. Look, I'm a
Yeah,
very compassionate person, but I admit, I
yeah,
think
I agree with.
for the first moment, I would probably want to still slap them, and then after them, still compassionately talk to them again. Because I mean, you have to be mad to say stuff like that. You
These
have to
people,
be
yeah,
insane.
and honestly, they need to be sent to the grill logs where they can be properly re-educated and kept away from
And
the internet.
funny enough, when I did say that to someone like that, guess who gets banned and who gets called a bigot?
Oh, right, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
It's hard to determine what a percentage is real and what's the false flag operators, but from my experience, I would say it's much less real than you would expect.
Well, I mean, not all false flags are as obvious as like 9/11 per se, but
Yeah.
Well,
Comment.
the hate against the vaccinated people is not so real when you go around the streets and stuff. When you go out in real life, you don't hear people talking that kind of stuff. You don't see them act like that. You know, the conversations are much more normal. So it's pretty clear that this all has to be faked somehow. Now, whether this is part of the whole mainstream media campaign or something bigger, but yeah, when you start, let's say, maybe it sounds a little bit paranoid, but when you start seeing the patterns throughout the years and a couple of decades, and you still see the same things repeating over and over again, whether it was 9/11, whether it was something else, or Edward Snowden and stuff, the troll armies are pretty much the same, and they have pretty the same ammo and the same patterns every time. It just doesn't stop. It's pretty clear now that this is really a part of more like but it seems like a psyop more or less, but it's the more you say it, it sounds conspiracy, even though it's not.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard like when you're just
It's
saying it.
definitely not.
no.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just it's hard to explain all of this stuff generally just to somebody because it's complicated, and without the seeing it yourself, you don't really. It doesn't seem very convincing. But after you have had that experience, you see a much clearer picture.
Yeah, we've even saved some of those crazy comments because when we capture posts, because I've saved some to my personal computer and backed up different posts before the actual Reddit got banned. So they deleted everything. Now you can't see it. And in those copies, I mean, you can see some of those very aggressive, terrible comments wishing that we would not get hospital treatment if we needed it, if we weren't vaccinated, just random crap like that. And another very interesting thing about Reddit was the CEO of Reddit actually made an announcement just a couple of weeks ago saying that, there's a lot of people wanting to, he didn't name our community specifically, but he's like, there's a lot of people wanting to ban people for opposing opinions, and Reddit is a place for open and free discussions, even if it isn't mainstream opinions. And then they got major backlash from that, from the Power Jannies. And that's when the communities across Reddit started to go private and blame NoNewNormal, which had people brigade our sub. And not even a week later, another Reddit admin announced they were going to take action against misinformation around COVID, they claimed, and they started the ban process on over 50 other communities and then completely banned NoNewNormal. So they quarantined over 50 communities in one day and banned us, and who knows who else they banned.
So I want to ask, just to close out this show, about Spez backtracking. So do you think, why do you think he backtracked? Do you think that the Power Janny cabal and the threats that they made, the dangerous threats to impede his private business, do you think that he was convinced by that?
No, I believe what the community's been telling me the whole time, and that we never had a chance. Just like with the Donald, it was a plan from the beginning, and once they enacted the quarantine, it was just a matter of time.
This was a peer community pressure for sure, because that would definitely reflect on investors and everybody else. So they just had to pull the plug. That's what I said before. They had to outweigh a couple of 100,000 users against millions of pissed off trolls.
But what was unusual, I think, was that they didn't plan on doing it. I think maybe it was going to be later in the week when they did it or something like that, because they did sense an element of desperation in how they operated with the ban. I think it came earlier than they wanted it to, but I think it definitely was part of the plan.
Yeah, it became earlier, and it was unannounced, so it was probably gonna happen, but for some other reasons and different the way it did. But it was purely, you can see that the community just backlashed on them quickly and so massively that they had no other option. I don't even blame them, to be honest.
Do you fellas at NoNewNormal think that you could beat up Spez? Like, he seems like kind of a weak guy. Do you think you could take him on a one-on-one?
Well, I need to see his height and weight, but I'm sure I could.
Especially if we were all doing it.
I'm pretty sure I could beat him in a staring contest, if you ask me.
And how about the spider guy? Do you think that he's a real person as well?
Yeah, I don't know if he's a real person, but I'm sure we could. Supposedly, supposedly he lives within 40 minutes away from me, and he mentioned his street online. So, but I don't know if he's a real person, but I'm sure I could. Otherwise,
now, what if I was to tell you that I am actually Spez and co-host Micah is Big Spider?
That'd be a great reveal. I'd love it.
Yeah, that'd be a great prank.
It's not a prank.
Okay.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I wonder
guys,
if it's
let's
going to
dive
appear
down,
on
Joe.
subreddit drama again.
I wonder that as well. Well, do you all have any final thoughts for us here today? Anything that you would like to let us know? I want to thank you all for coming on and telling us your truth.
Yeah, anyone else who hasn't spoken yet have anything to say? Might have audio issues, but
I would like to say just generally to people to not be afraid to speak up for whatever you believe in, and don't be afraid to research. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because there is no such thing as stupid questions. There are only stupid answers.
Don't be afraid to watch and listen to the Grillcast.
Yes. And thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on, boys. That'll be it for this week. Yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, and peace out, my grillas.
Yeah, I'm old as a boomer. My mindset on Zoomer. Everything cool as long as I'm not Laura Loomer. If you think I'm not number one, I done spell that rumor. Hit the victory royale on some motherfucking coochie. Default dance on a bitch. Hit the default dance on a bitch. Floss dance while I'm flossing in the whip. Victory royale when that chopper hit. Self-incrimination, I have no participation. News keep asking, I don't say shit. You can't have my conversation.